All right, y'all. It is the 1st of February. This is Spencer Keck, and I'm coming at you live with the Hillbilly Think Tank here in Tunnel Hills, Kentucky. And I am the educated hillbilly. No, that's not an oxymoron. Don't call me a moron. Today, I've got with me two guests from the UAW that I'm going to let tell us who they are, and we'll tell you about what we're planning this month after that. So, guys, if you take it away.
I am Becky Staley. I am a trustee at UAW Local 3047. Glad to be here.
I'm Randy Whalen. I'm a recording secretary for UAW Local 3047 here in Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
All right, y'all. So I've gathered you here because it is 1st of February, and I've been promising myself that I'm going to end my addiction to, fascism. So I'm not going to help balding billionaire get richer by buying his balderdash. Jeff Bezos has enough of my money, has enough of your money probably, and he is a facilitator for the administration. Instead of pushing back, they have done nothing but help the administration dig in by giving billions of dollars to our grifter in chief. Now, a big part of this is not just Bezos, but his latest iteration is using MGM, which he bought out, to create MGM Amazon. What's one of the first things they do? They let Melania grift to the tune of what, 25 million, making this so-called documentary for her.
I thought it was more than that, but
probably is. Yeah, the price tag is probably a lot more than that. But it's definitely large, extremely large. She's the best paid actress this year. My intention is, if I can get enough people to do 30 days of saying, hey, we're not going to let Bezos's AI, his monopoly is what he's got. We're not going to give in to it, and we're not going to contribute to his billionaire status for 1 month. We need to hit these guys where their pocketbook is. I'm not sure if you ever listened to Scott Galloway. He's a great economist. He calls himself a moderate, but he's a really, really intelligent moderate. If it's that, I think he's more than that. But he's got a podcast called Prof G. He also does one called Raging Moderates with the gal from Fox News, who's like their only, non-right-wing person on their show. He does another one with Katie Swisher, called Pivot. But I'm going to put a link up. He's actually got a way for anyone who's interested. He thinks that we need to do this for all of the billionaires that have companies that are investing. And in his link, he tells how to basically opt out, how to unsubscribe for 1 full month. So I'll put that right down there. He calls it the resist and unsubscribe. So they're in the comments at the bottom of the screen. You can see that. If you go to that link, he's got the way to unsubscribe from Amazon. For me, I just decided I unplugged every one of my Alexas. I'm not going to touch Prime. I'm not going to look at any of their notices. I'm not going to use their AI. But his products are also being used by the administration, and he Bezos is also grifting. So, what do you guys think?
So I think for me and my household, we stopped with Amazon. We've had no dealings with Amazon for the last several months. And I think all of us doing that, whether it be Alexa or whether it be shopping at stores that we know support this regime, like, we have the power to do that. It's not going to take just one or two of us. All of us stop spending our money in these places, and we will see how quickly things can change in our favor.
And that, you bring up a good point. I forgot to mention, Whole Foods is also owned by Bezos. And so, yes, I love eating healthy foods, but hey, I can buy from local farmers in the meantime.
Absolutely. And you'll actually help the economy out more when you help the local farmers in your area. You're going to get better product. You're going to have more money funneling into your local economy. So it just makes more sense than to funneling money into these billionaires' pockets that they're going to turn around with this regime and stand for everything we oppose right now.
And that's my second call, or in tandem with this, I urge everyone, please buy local. Just, anything you
Right.
do, buy local. What do you think, Randy?
I think we should buy local and try to buy products that are made here too, because that helps workers here. And it doesn't get sent to, like in the auto industry, Toyota or Honda, it doesn't get sent back to Japan or South Korea. It stays here in the country, and the tax dollars do too.
Absolutely. So, of course, one of my favorite beverages made here in Kentucky, a big bourbon guy. We've got a great bourbon spot just down the road in Radcliffe. Because I live in Tunnel Hills, but the Boundary Oak bourbon, man, it's some of the best. It's local. They make a really, really good red wine too, and they make a white wine, but I'm really into red wine. It's absolutely
tell my wife that.
incredible. Oh man, it's got a nice red wax label on it, which is reminiscent, to me, of Maker's Mark. And so, yeah, I just all about, hey, all these folks that hire locally and employ locally, like you said, grow locally, produce locally. I've gone out now and found local farmers where I can just go ahead and buy either a half hog or a whole hog, have them cut it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get with some of my colleagues at work. We're going to split a full pig and a full cow.
Well, Spencer, you've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed that Tyson shut down another meat plant. I think out in Texas or somewhere.
No, I didn't notice that.
Well, they're doing that so they can keep stock up to where they keep buying stuff cheap from farmers and then turning around and not producing it quite as fast, so they could do the markup on the other end of it, and that's why you're seeing a lot. That's part of the reason you're seeing some of these higher prices. So I've noticed that up here in E-Town, we've got a local butcher shop that popped up. We've always had Boone's. There's always
Thank you. Yeah. Have you
And
actually been to that butcher shop? Because I've been.
I have not been to that one yet. I've been to Webb's. I've been to Boone's once, but
so if you don't mind, let me pitch them real quick. I wanted to go in there and film yesterday, but I didn't get back from a road trip out to Heaven Hill in time. So that butcher shop gives a military discount. They're some of the happiest, friendliest folks that I've met. Just amazing service, great quality products. I even bought local milk. Was it Oberweis? I think it is. There in the old glass jars, So I got I go
That's
exchange.
Cool.
Yeah. Once I go get another one, I'll be able to get my deposit back on that glass jar. Hey, that means I'm not contributing to plastic, waste.
Right.
And also, man, my wife and daughter said it tastes so much better. It's got the cream on top,
The Spencer you're talking, and that's the way it used to be in the 70s. You remember it, Becky? I know you don't, but sorry.
Yeah.
but we had Downs Dairy here in Brandenburg, and they produced the milk for the area. They produced the milk for the school system, and it was all done locally until we had a bunch of lobbyists push for regulations that run a lot of these dairies and a lot of these small farmers out of business.
And I'm sorry. Yeah, go for it, Becky.
I was just going to say, there goes to show where we can bring that stuff back with the power of the people.
Yeah. And that's just absolutely it. Power of the people. I remember when Walmart started out listening. I was living in Arkansas with my stepdad at the time. He moved us all around a whole lot until I finally got to come back to, my wonderful state of Kentucky. But I remember talking I think it was the early 80s. Someone was complaining to him about Walmart, which of course started there in Arkansas, and how it was running all these small businesses out of business. when they first started, you remember they advertised, "Oh, we buy American where possible," and then they it didn't take them long to dump that at all. You know?
It's
Well,
funny.
wasn't. Go ahead, Becky.
I was just going to say it's funny that you bring up Walmart because we talk about the people have the power and buy locally. We also firmly try to buy anything that we can that's union made because we like to support other workers. And the reality is Walmart is not a union friendly company.
Right.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. My wife works at Costco. I'm hoping they'll actually build one here in Hardin County one of these times soon. But they pay her $32 an hour now.
Yeah.
Full benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to folks about all the time on the show, just because it means so much to me that a Kentucky company is doing this. Maker's Mark pays their folks $30 an hour plus full benefits. And the last time my wife and I went out there, she kind of gets on my case because, well, when I go to the restaurants, I like talking to the waitress and querying them to get everybody that's eating with me to understand how amazing the place is, the company is. Even though they're owned by Suntory Beam, somehow they maintain this independence. And the waitress was telling me, she'd been there for years. She's never going to leave. Because of the benefits package. Told me Christmas time, they didn't get just a great Christmas party. They basically got a bucket full of swag, and of real presents. And they're going to have another party for them in February with the same type of treatment to the workers that are basically, in the industry of the service industry. So then up on the hill, we went and talked to the bartender, and she's like, I make $34 an hour plus full benefits.
Sweet.
Another waitress said she adopted a kid and he got maternity leave for months, full pay.
Wow.
If a millionaire can do that, that's one company. Mm-hmm. Yet one of the most successful companies in America, even though they've been bought out by Suntory Beam, they're still doing that. Their kids are going to be millionaires. Their kids are millionaires. Their grandkids are going to be millionaires.
Right.
What on earth, why can't more of them do that? Not only do they do that, they take care of the earth. So you go out there and you're eating locally produced stuff that's either grown on the property or within 30 miles. They do regenerative farming. So they're sequestering all this stuff, the carbon back into the soil, and helping us replenish our air by doing good farming practices that do that. I've got a picture of me with one of their golf carts that they run. Well, it's like a 6-passenger cart actually to run people around the property, and it was solar powered. It has a whole solar panel on top, electric. A lot of the things out there are electrically powered. Mm-hmm. I plug my Chevrolet American built EV in out there for free, union built. And what can I say? I can't say anything better, and it's for free. I drive all the way out there to Loretto, middle of nowhere. They're doing that. I noticed they have a very diverse workforce in addition to that. So it can be done. You can be a millionaire. You don't have to be an asshole to people, The
issue is it's not part of its money, but they've got more than enough money that they could live on the rest of their lives. It's the power. What's the old adage? Power corrupts. The absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah. And and then you've got people who tend to think that, God, they use God, and some of them I've heard. He must be favoring me over you because he's allowed all this for me and everything.
Right.
Maybe it's a test to see whether you're going to be as kind to the people as he asked you to, or Jesus asked you to in the first place.
Yes. And you're bringing back. What do you feel on that, Becky? I don't want to hog up the.
No,
before I say something about that.
I was just thinking we've been so complacent in that ourselves because we've given them the power for this convenience that we've experienced. Like mm-hmm. they're getting more powerful, and they're able to use this power to not help the workers get paid more, to lower prices to make it more convenient for us. So that way we're not going to think, I would rather pay locally, and it might come at a little bit of an upcharge because you're paying actual local workers.
Right.
So we're sacrificing a lot of that standing up for each other just to be complacent and just for that convenience of having everything in one spot.
Absolutely, exactly. Before I forget, if hopefully he's still on there. I got one watcher. My student Ding has just said hi. So hi, Ding. Yeah, it's that convenience over freedom and liberty. Here in Tunnel Hills and Elizabethtown and this whole county, Kentucky, I'd say we believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
But how can you have those three if we're paying for people to take that away from us? And that's what we're doing, in my opinion, when we help out Musk, Bezos, name a few more, and they know that we're addicted to them, and it basically
it's what I've said.
Taking an intervention.
Go ahead.
No,
it's what I've said I've stood up and said in meetings before, and Becky can hear me. Here I said, comfort has bred complacency to the point that we've let this happen, and then all of a sudden now we're in uh-oh mode, but some of us still aren't. And it's, what do we do to fix it before it's too late? Because it almost feels too late right now, because people, they're using safety as an issue when the real issue is what rights are you giving up for that safety?
Thank you so much. And that's what, and that brings me to a point near and dear to me. As a veteran, and we're in a veteran heavy county. We have the most veterans per capita of any other county in the state. I did not fight overseas in the first Gulf War and in the 20-year war that just recently ended. So when I was in Afghanistan, I wasn't there so that I could help fascists take over here. I was fighting fascists and authoritarians overseas. I never dreamed that I would come back and, oh man, this is really close to the anniversary when I, a few months from now will be the anniversary when I returned home after the attack happened. And I was the first one in country after the attack. I just never dreamed that this would be a place that we're in now, to where civilians are being treated worse by people in uniform with masks on their face than I treated civilians, and then my compatriots treated civilians when we were in combat. We had better rules of engagement for the foreign civilians than ICE has, and CBP, which are way too far from the border, than they have for civilians on the American soil. In our Constitution, nowhere does it say if someone's not an American citizen, you get to violate their human rights. Does it say that anywhere? No, not at all. It didn't say we hold these truths to be self-evident that only citizen men are endowed by the Creator with inalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It said all men, and we now know we've included all men and women.
Right.
So that means I'm supposed to protect all of humanity and humankind from being treated like animals and dirt. And that, and take it back to what you're saying, Becky, and all of us talk about Christianity. That's what it's supposed to have been about.
Right.
Love thy neighbor as thyself, the golden rule. You can't do that if you're treating someone like they're subhuman.
And
I am my brother's keeper.
My brother's keeper. Exactly.
But I will say I am seeing that progressively becoming more and more. I'm starting to see more people look out for their neighbors. I'm starting to see more people step up, start to take trainings that aren't required. starting to ask hard questions. Even something, you know, in the UAW, we have been very cognizant of where we spend our money for a very long time. But the way forward, people are starting to realize, you know, places like Target that lets ICE just come in and walk around, hotels that are housing these ICE agents. We have learned, let's stop spending our money there. You know, I've seen more and more often people looking out for each other, helping shovel driveways, helping get groceries, helping look out for each other. And I truly believe that that's the way forward, because these goons that are coming out that are trying to blatantly block our constitutional rights, they're trying to fearmonger us into shutting up. They're trying to fearmongering us into letting them overrun our streets. And what they have realized is we're not giving up that easy. And we're coming together, because I've seen even people on the other side of the aisle come over and join hands, because this is not America. This is not what our Constitution protects us from. And it's been great to see a lot of the love and support coming out from places that you wouldn't see it 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
And thank you so much for that, because that's actually, you brought up another point, Scott Galloway, on this link that I have back here, you know, at the bottom. One of the companies that he urges us all to unsubscribe from, and I did, is Bonvoy Marriott, because that's where these guys are all staying at night. You know, our taxpayers' dollars are paying for these goons to go spend the night there on our dime. And, you know, they're taking it in happily, no pushback. And so I will, you know, I have a lot of points with Bonvoy Marriott. And I'm now preferring those. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can I just say, the way that we know all of this information is from the hard work and dedication of people just like the three of us in this chat. We have people, whether it's locally or in other states and other cities, that they go around and they help to make sure that our neighbors stay safe. And that's how we know where they're eating. That's how we know where they're staying. It's people just like us that are fed up with what's going on and are doing what they can. We all have our strengths. And so the way that we know where they're staying is from volunteers just like us.
And mentioning where they're eating, there have been multiple sightings off of exit 94 at all the big chain restaurants there.
Yep.
Of these folks parking there and eating. You know, no pushback. Hey, you know, that's another discussion.
There has been independents up in Minneapolis that I've seen have pushed back and told them to get out. They couldn't eat there, and that's a start. But one of the things, and I hate to say this the way I don't know how to say it, but one of the things that this has actually done, though, has gotten people engaged, finally got them off of the couch, off of wherever they are, and making them look at the Constitution and read it and what it says, and learn things that they have taken for granted all these years. My biggest problem, though, is that why are we even here? We fought in the 30s. Unions fought for workers' rights. In the 50s and the 60s, and before then, the NAACP and others have fought. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they all fought for equal rights for African Americans and others, minorities, and women's rights in the late 70s, in the late 60s and early 70s. We fought for all that. We gained all those things. And we became so complacent in thinking that they would never get taken away. Here we are fighting for the same thing again. And I just don't understand what kind of mentality that makes you think that once you get something, you're not going to lose it because somebody else wants to take it from you.
Thank you for mentioning that. You know, when I was in the Navy and I did an officer training program to help me get ready for Navy ROTC. And one of the things that, and this was geared towards helping, it was mostly minorities in the program, to help them, you know, rise up into the commission ranks. And I was very fortunate to go through that with them. As I guess what my only minority status was being Appalachian hillbilly. But
No, that's where unions come from, my friend.
oh, I know, the hillbilly highway. But one of them pointed out when we were studying, this history you're speaking of, is that Supreme Court has taken rights away and given them back so many times in our history, and that they can never be complacent and think that if you got your rights now, that a court decision by the Supreme Court can't take them away again.
Right.
And we're seeing that.
The only way you can almost guarantee, and even with this, even with this administration, it's up in the air, is to have constitutional amendments guaranteeing these rights, and we've got some, and they're still abusing them. But it's still against the law to do these things, even though this government has decided to remove DEI, which also not only affects minorities, it affects handicapped people. Simple things as having ramps at work so they can wear a wheelchair to work, and or a bathroom.
As a 100% disabled veteran, so that gives me minority status. I cannot stand the fact that we call so many things by acronyms these days that deserve a full name. It's diversity, equity, and inclusion. When on earth did this become something that Christians can say is not part of Jesus's message? Does he not want any diversity in heaven? Does he not want any type of inclusion in heaven? Are we supposed to not include people if they don't have freckles like me? What are you going to say? Sorry about Becky.
I was just going to say, when you use the acronym, it absolves you from any culpability you have, because then you don't have to look at the entire reason why we have Braille, the entire reason why we have handicapped bathrooms are because of the DEI initiative, and handicap parking, absolutely, are because of the DEI initiative. But they have dog whistled the DEI acronym to where it makes it to where you can make in your mind what you feel it means instead of what it actually means.
And it starts back in the 60s and 70s when we started to diverse Title IX. Without Title IX, women, girls weren't allowed to play basketball again until 1975 in this state. They had an era where they started out playing, then they stopped them because it wasn't ladylike or something by law, and then but then they have to fund these things because it's fair.
Absolutely.
It's fair.
And we believe that it's not, or they believe, not we, not you and I, but they try to act like that diversity, equity, and inclusion are unfair when we know they're just the opposite.
And it used to be called some of it used to be called by the name affirmative action. And the reason it was put into place is because there were companies that would not hire minorities, would not hire people, whether they were qualified or not. And for people to get on here and say, well, they're not, some of the ones that on the other side of them were, I believe. So we'll get up and say, well, I would, if they were put in because of this, then I would feel uncomfortable because I don't know whether they're qualified. Really? Are you kidding me?
Right.
They go through the same training. They're going to be qualified.
Absolutely. That's the biggest joke of them all. When I worked for the VA, I ran into folks that were not veterans, but that had, never served in the military, but they had a job in the VA, and they thought that I and that the other veterans that worked alongside me only got our job because we had this status of being able to get an interview, and they thought that we were just a shoe-in. No, all that disability status did, for us is actually veteran status and disabled veteran status aren't one and the same, but they played in, right? All that did was get me an interview.
Yeah,
and
got you in the door.
Got me in the door. But once I started interviewing people myself, if there was a veteran who just was completely unqualified, I didn't hire them, and they didn't get hired. And so, but all that did was ensure that I wasn't blocked from getting the chance to interview because I had served 20 some years in the military and didn't have all of the networking, that folks that were civilians did, that had 20 years to develop a network that I didn't have. That's all it did. So I had to prove myself still in the interview and with my resume. So yeah, it's a bunch of balderdash. And when I went out to Fancy Farm this year with some other, fellow folks of like mind, so there was only one Democrat showed up there, and that
was
is
Drew Williams.
Drew Williams, exactly. Who gave? I mean, you heard they were trying to shout him down and talk crap to him, but he talked Jesus' straight up message of love, hope, taking care of your neighbor, and that redeeming quality of the message. And their tone dropped once he started talking. That I was like, hey, I'm in the pews with you every day, or every Sunday, but you also know that I work by the sweat of my brow, roll up my sleeves, and I built your docks and I built your porches because that's my business, Yeah. And I'm not a trust fund baby, So, man, these people but the real message was he was using the real message of Jesus in Scripture, and oh my God, they started shutting down. But all they were doing amongst themselves, because all they could, the rest of it was cutting down each of the Republicans trying to cut each other down. Oh, you hired DEI. You had a DEI program in your business. Oh, you hired immigrants. I'm anti-immigrant. You're pro-immigrant. That's all it was. Anti-DEI, as they would say. They wouldn't come out and say you're anti-diversity, anti-equity, and anti-inclusion. They wouldn't spell it out like we're saying, but they would use that DEI as if it was, a ramrod and immigration. As like they had nothing to talk about as how they're going to build America and the local economy.
It's because it's convenient to divide people. And politicians and right now the news, the corporate news are the two biggest entities that are the worst offenders. I pray every day that we reinstate the fairness doctrine.
I'm right there with you.
So we don't have to hear.
Can you explain that to people that don't know? Because I think a lot of people were born before that, Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It was Ronald Reagan's the one that got rid of it. But it was a doctrine which said that you had to be fair and give equal time to both sides and basically tell the truth when you reported the news or reported it neutrally and not put your opinion into the news. And also during that time, back when me and you were younger, the news owned the news. Corporations didn't own the news. They were their own entities. The New York Times owned the New York Times. The Courier Journal and the Louisville Times, I know that's getting old on you, but those papers were owned by the Binghams up in Louisville. So how we got to where NBC or somebody or Fox owns all of these stations out here and all these conglomerates and all the news and can slight the narrative instead of telling the news. I miss Walter Cronkite like nobody's business because he would go, that's the way it was this certain day at certain time. You decide.
But
doesn't GE own NBC?
Yeah. Go ahead, Becky.
But I'm going to say a little bit of perspective from a younger generation. I think a lot of that is because there was never, as a girl that grew up in rural Kentucky schools, there was never a big focus on paying attention to these things in our society. Our education system is failing so many people because we're constantly trying to cut money from it. They've been attacking the education system, this entire regime change. And like, just from my memory, my recollection, it was never put in me the importance of voting. It was never put into our schools what each side stood for, why it was important to pay attention And the entire time while that's happening, you have these big corporations that are behind the scenes, not really behind the scenes, we're just not paying attention, that are buying out, the news agencies. You've got them you've got these big churches, the Christian nationalists putting money into all of these things. And the entire time, they're not telling us to look for it. They're not teaching us to critically think about these things, because that's just the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
So
follow the narrative, because we're telling you that's the way it is, because
Yes.
that's the way we're telling you Jesus said that the way it was, and they don't read it.
Yes, and it's once you bring Jesus in there, if the preacher says it or the pastor or whatever, that is the gospel. So you can't buck it. You were taught to not question it. And so here it is. We are a long way away from the civil rights era in the 60s and the 70s. So we're a couple generations away where they have been watering down our education system this entire time for us to not pay attention.
Do you guys mind? We'll take about a second break, and then we'll come back and think of some local places we can urge folks to go shop locally. Okay? About 13-second break. Here we go.
Okay.
Give you time to think about it.
What's up, Casper? How are you, buddy? Huh? Got tired of walking? A little too cold? Was it a little too cold running around? Had fun? Yeah.
Just great places that we can go spend our money while we hopefully, unplug from fascism here for a month. Like I say, I'm not going to be using Amazon. So I love to read. I love books. I love music. So since I won't be listening to Audible or buying books off of Amazon, and I won't be using my favorite way to, unfortunately, to get music, which is Amazon Music, I'm going to give a shout out to a business down there not far from the square of Elizabethtown. Have you been down to see the new LP store?
No.
Yeah,
I haven't.
So there is a new place to buy used LPs, and it's owned by an Army veteran. He's actually retired Army, and he's got his whole family in there working. You can buy old stuff, new stuff there. Just a treasure trove of records. And you can also, right in the same room, but separate business, is a brand new used and new bookstore, mostly used books.
Ooh.
So that's just off the square. You know where Running Souls is?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So it's right across the street from that. But don't go across the square, just go across the street.
Randy?
Yeah, I know. I have over 1,000 albums I've collected over the years from when I was younger and stuff. And I recently gave Becky a record player so she could actually play LPs. So.
I went old school, so that's why he's got to take me over there, help me find a good record for my record.
Heck yeah. It's the place to do it. Really good service, and we're just wonderful folks. So, yeah.
You talking about books. I would like to put in a quick little recommendation to save everybody some money. Our local library, I don't know if anybody's heard of there's an app. It's called Libby, and you actually use your library card, and you're able to get audiobooks, digital books for free using your library card. So we have free resources in the area too, in addition to shopping locally and helping local families.
And that's true. Now, the name of this store is New Style Records, and it's right next to Bird Whistle Books.
Okay.
So, yeah, and thanks for remembering. Yeah, just the library in itself is a local resource that we should not lose or neglect.
And that's, I used to have an Audible subscription. I haven't had one in years, just because the metrics of it, you're constantly dumping money in Versus supporting my local library. I've been doing Libby for years now. The only downside is you have to wait a little bit for new books, but if it's something I have to watch or I have to listen to or get, then I'm going to go to a local bookstore and purchase it, you know?
Absolutely. Well, that's one, the bird whistle. Is that what I said it was? Yeah.
Yeah, I have one. I know Little Charlie's Pizza.
Oh, yes.
They
Yes.
are anti-ice. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
yes,
I'm a big fan of Charlie. Charlie actually,
yes.
Charlie's from Sicily, and my son in Sicily came to live here for a little while, and he got
Yeah.
hired on by Charlie for a bit and paid extraordinarily well. They give a military discount. That's amazing. Tell us more. I did not know what you said, though.
Yes. So I have been told by multiple really good sources that they are a safe space, and they are anti-ice. So if we're ever in the area doing lookouts, watching out for our neighbors and all of that, because if you think ice isn't in the area, you are sadly mistaken.
Yes.
Know your rights. The most important line of defense we can have is education. But it also helps to have a few neighbors that are on our side as well. And I have been told by multiple sources that they are an ally. So that's my recommendation.
Also, as someone who lived in Sicily for a long time and later Sardinia, Italy, that is the most authentic place you go in the county and get really good pizza made on the spot. And they have other things that you could only get in Sicily there. Have you tried their rice balls? It's got an Italian name, arancino. Yeah, go ask for.
I'll have to try that because I've only ever had their pizza.
Yeah, their arancini are really good. My niece has gotten lasagna there before. She swore it was great. I miss arancini. That's the plural for arancino in Italian. But yeah, it's rice in the side. It's got a ragu with meat and a few veggies, probably. It's really good. And cheese in the center. But yeah, it's fried, deep fried. So, or I can't remember if it's deep fried or baked. But anyway, it's got a crust on the outside. Randy, what do you say?
You see, here's the issue. Becky knows me well. I don't go out and shop much. Now, I will eat out occasionally, but it's usually at the same place, ordering the same thing all the time. Yeah. And it's just one of my quirks. But my wife goes out to these smaller places a lot of times and I'll bring something back and I'll try it. For me, I mean, it's always been Otter Creek Tavern down the road here. But
yeah. Talk about that's in Vine Grove, right?
Yeah.
Or no?
It's in the Meade County side of Vine Grove, but
yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. I lived in Vine Grove for a while, and someone told me about that. I love that place, except for the fact that they allow smoking in there. Yeah,
but if you want to go from the
really good,
if you want to go from the farming side of it, now a lot of my relatives will go to places like Dow's Hardware over in Garrett, or there's a feed place over in Midway that you used to go to. There was a hardware store there. Smaller places where we know that we could trust people to work on stuff and do it right. Flaherty Tractor's always been there too, right there next to the Valero. But before I forget my thought, I think I already did, but I wanted to say that we were talking about them watering down the education system. When I entered Meade County High School, my group, my freshman year, I didn't get there till later in that era, but citizenship was required as a requirement to graduate. And that was the last year it was required. After that, it was no longer required because they were switching over to math and science. And math and science are good, and I don't begrudge anybody. But if you don't know your history and you don't know how your government runs, then it's going to be hard for you to participate in it from a knowledgeable standpoint. And that bothers me. I think that citizenship should be required. American government should be required back in the school system. I think unionism needs to be brought back up in because it's a part of history that they negate. There's a lot of minority history they negate. You don't hear anything about Native American history hardly, except that, you know, except for maybe the Trail of Tears and that, you know, the $24 in beads that were sold from the Dutch to get Manhattan Island. That's about it when it comes to.
But even then, we're told that from the scope of how we want history to be remembered.
Right. It's a revision of history. Well, you know how it is. The victor, to the victor goes the spoils, and that includes writing their own history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is in the later part of the 20th century and up to this point, people started investigating, going to the Library of Congress and places like that, and finding out the truth, like the Beard thesis, and where they found a few discrepancies in our worship of our founding fathers, but still, because they were human beings just like we were, and people need to relate to that also. But the thing is, when it comes to our country, it is important for us to know history so we do not repeat human nature in the same way 50 years down the road like we're trying to do right now, or 70 or 80 or whatever it is. Because when you forget it, then you fall back into your human fallacies about what you or somebody else may believe. And then when you're getting a narrative without doing an investigation, and you're believing what somebody's saying without finding it out for yourself, then you're not doing any of this country any good, or any of us any good as a country, because it doesn't split
you
us.
brought up a real key point. Hope I don't know why there's an echo all of a sudden. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the last time we were at this point, and I'm trying to determine what the cycle is where we start repeating things, you know, but it seems like it's maybe 90, 100 years. So the last time we were at this point was the time between the two Roosevelts. So you think about it, Teddy Roosevelt came into office, and we had the robber barons who absolutely ran America. These are the billionaires,
Right.
millionaires back then, that ran the whole country. They had monopolies on everything, and they had tight control. They decided who got to be a candidate and to get elected to office. Now, they thought that Teddy was going to be on their side, but instead, Teddy became the monopoly buster. He was the monopoly buster.
He
They
did.
eventually, you know, pushed him out of the party. Well, then, you know, that didn't completely shut them down. So you go from him and move, you know, through the next Republican presidents, and we got the president that gave us, you know, veterans in the mall in D.C. looking for their money for fighting, you know, World War I, because they were
Right.
starving.
Hoover
And-
bills.
Right. So did Hoover do anything? No.
Nope.
He went and sent in MacArthur to put down veterans in Hooverville, the same veterans that MacArthur had led in combat, you know, in World War I. So
That's true.
you go from that, you know, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt came into office, it was bad. You know, we know the economy was so bad, but also our political state of affairs had gotten atrocious. People thought, okay, capitalism must be done. I mean, not capitalism, sorry. Democracy must be done. This grand experiment. Oh, it's nice that it lasted 100 years. Well, so he was expected to be an authoritarian. He was expected to take over as an authoritarian and sweep aside the rules of democracy, but he didn't. That's why he was elected over and over and over again, and his track record of success is what got his term limits on presidents, but he turned it around. He said, hey, we've heard so many times that you say anytime we give the power to the people to help the people, that's socialism, and that's a scary word. We're not going to be scared of it anymore. And instead of creating a fascist government like he was hoped to do,
Right.
and there were people online, billionaires waiting to help create that with him, he didn't do it. So we're at that point again, but we don't have a leader like him in place now. We have just the opposite. We also have a technocracy that makes it a lot easier to grease the wheels to keep us fighting each other through social media and through all of us being in our own echo chambers.
Yep.
And so we're at a really dangerous point. And that's just why I really hope that this is our freedom from buying balderdash from a balding, bombastic billionaire Bezos. That's what I'm pushing for. I also urge everyone, please go to Scott Galloway's link. I'll put it back up here again. And he's calling for this to be our resist and unsubscribe month. So he's also right on track with it.
Can I add to your history just a little bit on that? Best of memory with Theodore Roosevelt. He was big in New York, and the people there wanted to get him out of New York, so they put him as a vice presidential candidate with William McKinley, and they thought, well, he can't do any harm to us there. And then when McKinley was assassinated, he became president, and then he started our national park system and things of that nature. And then when you were talking about the Hoovervilles, the reason that those veterans went there was to ask the federal government to get their pensions early, because their pensions were slated for 1945, and Hoover refused and sent MacArthur in. And that's how that occurred, and they still did not get their pensions until 1945. As for FDR, I mean, he did everything from the Works Project Administration, or I can't think that's right. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have the TVA, we wouldn't have Hoover Dam, we wouldn't have any of those things. Because what the federal government finally did under him was take the federal government's money and invest it back into the country, so people could have jobs and get things done with infrastructure wise. So now I'm done.
Amen. Well, I'm going to close on this note. And I want us to honor a union member who was killed with 10 or more bullets riddling through his body simply for trying to be a good Samaritan and block a woman from being assaulted further by the goons. And that is Alex Preddy. He is an AFGE member. That's the union for federal workers. I belonged to that union when I worked for the VA, and I absolutely would have been in the VA less amount of time, if it hadn't been for the AFGE. So I can't say enough. And I've talked on the show before about the work that intensive care unit nurses do. Those are the people in the VA and in all hospitals. But, think what this guy did in the veterans hospitals. He was wiping poop off people's ass on an hourly, 30-minute, whatever it took. He was giving them food through nasogastric tubes. That's nasty, hard work. He was suctioning their tubes to clean them out and get the stuff out of their stomach when their digestive system wasn't working, in addition to giving meds through IVs and having to often put them in places that regular nurses can't do it. It's a tough job, 12 hours a day. Anyone who will wipe my ass when I am in an intensive care unit, I can only thank them. And I worked in the intensive care unit in the VA before I switched careers. After I retired from the military, when I was working in the VA and during COVID, that was tough. What he did for the veterans, making that, honorarium, saying, hey, freedom isn't free. And he was honoring that guy. Well, I'm honoring him.
Right.
I'm not going to anymore help out these fascist billionaires. I'm going to buy local here in Hardin County.
Absolutely. Us too.
I'll let you guys take us out.
All right.
Last comments.
Go ahead, Becky.
No, you go ahead because you look like you had something.
Well, no, not in particular. I'm just hoping, for the sake of this country, that we all come together. We all have a basic understanding of what's right and what's wrong. And we need to come together, regardless of party, and say what is right and what is wrong. And the things that are happening in Minneapolis, Los Angeles, and other places in this country is wrong. This is not the way we do things. We are a country of laws. We follow the rule of law. We do not do what is being done right now. It needs to stop. Please come together, all of us, and stop this from happening any further.
Right here, right now.
So I just want to say, you can buy local. Farmers markets, I know it's in the wintertime. Try to get your stuff from farmers markets. If you absolutely cannot buy local, try to buy union, because that is another thing that helps all the communities. It helps people just like all of us here. You can Google, easiest way is to look up Union Made. It can give you a list of the brands, from everything from coffee to peanut butter to stores like Kroger, or more local stores like Priceless, to where your money is not funneling into these billionaires' pockets to where they can further oppress us and further turn us against each other. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Amen. I couldn't say it better. And if everybody that's listening would please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, vote for me for Hardin County Magistrate District 3. This is an important election. In Kentucky, united we stand, divided we fall. We are our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper. We love our neighbors as ourselves in Kentucky. We can't be united if we don't. Bless our corazon, which means bless our heart. Y'all, I really appreciate you stopping by tonight and chatting with us here, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I like it. I like it.